That's right. It's a last check-in on Listen Up, presented by Dempsey's and Sportsland. That's right. I'm back. We're back, Ryan. I tell you what. First of all, I want to start out. Congrats on the last video. I was really upset I couldn't join you for that recap. We would get into that game a little bit more, even though you touched on that. You did a great job the other night without me, something I probably couldn't have done. So I just I want to first of all thank you for having my back and going on. What was it, Monday night after the UCF matchup? What a game! What a game! I'd say I was able to actually catch the highlights, and then of course I did watch your recap. Man, I mean, we could sit here for an hour, right, and talk about talk about what happened, the weaknesses, the strengths of both ball teams. But I mean, we don't have time for all of it. But yeah, I mean, it's so much that, especially as we go on into the Sweet 16, Elite Eight, and all these incredible defensive teams now that we're starting to see heat up. Man, I mean, like I told you, Ryan, you could sit here for hours and just talk with me about it. But and we could still be wrong, of course, but we're not going to get into it.
Yeah, that was definitely a fun one. I had fun on Monday night, recapping that one. Yeah, unfortunate you couldn't be with me for that one because that was a really good game. UCF gave UConn a battle there, and that was a really exciting game to watch.
Well, I'll tell you what, and it's kind of crazy because it looks like Indiana is coming off of a game similar to that of UConn. What I mean, Ryan, pretty low scoring. Usually, again, we're used to seeing UConn score 80, 90 points a game. Again, I understand it's not going to happen, especially around this time of the year. And I kind of figured, I was saying it all along. I kind of figured that we already knew this was a different kind of UConn women's basketball team, Ryan. And I was just waiting. That's why in the last episode I was on with you, that's what the question I asked. I don't know if you remembered. I said, Ryan, when do you think that UConn will have some competition, some more closer nail biter games, is what you called that last video or that last game? And you said, well, Phil, I think, what'd you say? I think it'll come in the Elite Eight, maybe the Final Four. Well, it came in it before the Sweet 16, the second round. So again, this is not from 2000, what was it, 13 to 16, some of the most dominant UConn teams ever in women's basketball history for this historic program. So, I mean, it's you almost had that gut feeling it would come, right? Where one of these teams would clamp down and get a good hold on to UConn. And I didn't expect it to come second round. Now the question now facing is, will this happen continuously every ball game until UConn gets eliminated or wins it all?
Yeah, I mean, I think it definitely could, and I think it definitely can if we see UConn have another performance like they did on Monday night against UCF. I think they still played good. They obviously played good enough to win. There in the end, they clutched up and they played pretty good defense through that second and third. There's second and third quarters. They played really good defense and really shut UCF down after they had that really good first quarter. But I think the key is to just keep on playing really solid, physical, tough UConn defense like we've seen the whole entire season.
Yeah.
Um, and on the offensive side for UConn, I think it's going to be, they run their offense so well. Gino sets it up so good. They run all these plays in practice. They're so used to it now.
Mm-hmm.
But they get all these open shots, and we've seen these past two games they can't knock them down. They get so wide
Yeah.
open. Not really easy shots because nothing's really easy, right? But they get wide open shots, and they can't seem to knock them down. So I think if they just knock those shots down where they get wide open, I think they can win some of these games by double-digit scores. But I think that really their defense is what keeps them in ball games. So if they just keep their defense up, their tough defense, I think they're going to have success against Indiana again.
Because we talk about, I was watching, shout out to Autumn Johnson. She does a great job. I always catch her interviews with these different players around the league. Um, And she does a great job with these interviews with NCAA. And she actually interviewed Allie Patberg. I was catching that interview this morning, Ryan. And some takeaways from that, the true veteran. I mean, Indiana, this is no pushover game and I think I saw some comments on your last video that you released about, I think some people have Indiana winning this next ball game. Now, I tell you, let's go over Indiana, see what you think here. Some quick takeaways that I personally took away from the Allie Patberg interview this morning. So this is Indiana's, she said this is Indiana's second straight Sweet 16 appearance. And you know how I always talk about with you the experience and how that's a key factor and plays a role in ball games. Listen to this. So this is the same starting five that went to the Elite Eight last year, the same lineup that you have. They have 5 1,000 point scores on Indiana on this team. And Allie goes, she pointed out when she was sitting down with Aldon Johnson, she pointed out, it's crazy. You mentioned the UConn defense. She pointed out Indiana's defense. So again, like Gino said, he thinks it's whoever steps up on defense bigger and whoever has the better defense will most likely make it to that national championship. And then, of course, ball movement for both teams. And I put this, Allie Patberg made some good points. What Indiana must do to beat UConn. I mean, going into big territory up there in Bridgeport, right? But I think mainly, Ryan, it's for both teams. Even though Allie was talking about her own team, focus on the rebounding. Don't give UConn second chances, and then UConn must score on first shot attempts. I think that's a big one because in the last game when UConn, obviously that was probably the biggest headline of the whole night, 29% shooting. And I know they brought on a video on ESPN, one of the sports shows the next morning, and that's all they could talk about was the number 29.
Yeah, and I think UCF they did give UConn they allowed them to get offensive rebounds and get second chances when they were missing those wide open shots. And even though UCF played a pretty decent defense against UConn, they're such a talented team. I think that's a little bit what UConn they got back into their rhythm, getting second, third. Sometimes it seemed like even four chances to score. And when you give UConn that many chances, they're eventually going to make it. So I think that definitely is a good strategy for Indiana to come into this game with, to get on those boards against these tall UConn players. I think Indiana matches up pretty well. They have two forwards starting that are 6'3", so they match up pretty decently against UConn. But yeah, I think it's don't allow UConn to get second chance points and crash those boards and get the rebounds.
Yeah, because Indiana, as we know, they love, and even Allie Patberg pointed this out, Ryan. They love getting the rebounds, and the transition, going up the court quickly. So I think that your point is major. I mean, if UConn does not get their first shot attempts to fall in, man, don't get mad at me again, y'all, but we may be on upset alert with that little red bell coming through, like the little red alert page, Ryan, from ESPN. It's going to get interesting. I can't wait. But I wanted to tell you this, Ryan. So what I did was earlier this morning, I took a look. I think it's a total of 4 seniors on Indiana, the Hoosiers roster. And I took a look at the 4 seniors, their average scoring per game, or on the season. And I added up all them points. Guess how much 4 seniors averaging how many total points? 4
I'd
seniors.
say probably around 50.
You got it. Yeah. You've been doing this podcast long enough. We can tell. So you should be very well set and ready for next season. Once we cover UConn yet again. Yeah, it was right around 50. So, I mean, again, does that pose a bigger threat than what you originally thought? Because, again, now we have to take a step back and, I really had confidence that this UConn group was coming together. I didn't want to say they were overachieving or overconfident. I didn't want to make it look like I was overconfident. I understand these are a lot of good ball teams in this tournament, but again, it's UConn. And I never really thought we would have that discussion. Now, is this just a one game? If UConn does go on to win the national championship, was UCF the team that could have knocked them off? Do you see all these other games not even being close? Or have we moved on to not a different era, but a different era in this tournament? Do you see every most like, because they're only, what's a magical number? Four wins away from a national title. Do you possibly see, are there no more games? Because we recapped a lot of games this season, Ryan. Any more games that they score 80 or 90, or them days are over for now?
I can't see UConn quite getting to the 90 mark or the 80 mark. Even if they do make those wide open shots, I just can't see it this late in the tournament, especially when they get to the next round. It's going to get really tough. But against this team in the Sweet 16 in Indiana, they're talking about having a tough defense, much like UCF did. So I think it's going to be pretty tough on UConn again. But talking about Indiana's roster a little bit more, senior guard Grace Berger leads the Hoosiers in points and assists per game during the regular season. Junior forward Mackenzie Holmes leads them in rebounds and blocks. The rest of the starters for Indiana are seniors. Like you said, forward Alexa Golb, guard Nicole Cardano Hillary, and guard Ali Patberg. So, and I took a look at their bench, the rest of their roster. They don't have a very deep bench. All their starters average a little over 30 minutes and 50 points a game, like you said. Sophomore guard Chloe Moore McNeil gets about 20 to 25 minutes off the bench. And other than that, really nobody else plays. It's really a six player team this Indiana team has. So I think that gives the advantage to UConn there. UConn has 4 players on their bench that are capable of starting. And the 2 games that we've seen, those players have been Dorka, Ducharme, Mule, and Westbrook. So those 4 players, they're all capable of starting, I think, on pretty much every single other team in college basketball. So, and we've seen it throughout the year, UConn dealing with those injuries, all these players that stepped up in the starting lineup. So I think it's just later in the game. I think the Huskies are going to have more energy than the Hoosiers. And I think that's kind of what we saw in the UCF game going into that fourth quarter. And UConn pulled away a little bit. UCF did come back, but in the end, UConn was able to prevail in that game. So I think it's already hard enough to play at UConn's pace. And I think Indiana is going to try to do that. UCF, they slowed UConn down a little bit. And I think that maybe the full court press for Indiana, I think that might be another key thing they maybe try to do, like we saw UCF did against them. That might slow down UConn a little bit, but I think it's hard enough to already play at UConn's pace. And Indiana only having 6 players that they play in their lineup, I think it's just going to be tough to be able to keep up with UConn for the whole entire game.
Yeah, that's a good point. And so here's a thought for you. The other day I saw where Paige Becker's it said that CT Insider. I got this from CT Insider, and they go Paige Becker's hasn't been the same since returning for UConn, and then it said Gino Auriemma is okay with that. Yeah, I mean, we talked about how good the ball movement is in UConn all year. I just wonder, can that go 4 more games, to victory and ride to victory? The reason I say that, I'm not saying that, these UConn Huskies have not gotten tested. We've come to an, an agreement that UConn Huskies conference, there are mixed emotions, mixed feelings for how much strength there is in this conference, or how much weakness there is in the conference.
Right.
My take, I have to feel a little guilty because I argue with you in the beginning of the season. It's not that strong of a conference, but I mean, in the end, how many teams have made it from out of their conference? 3 or 4?
Yeah, well, Villanova won their first round game, and then Creighton made it to their first ever Sweet 16. So
that's what I'm saying. So things can not only take a turn within a matter of a year, but within a matter of a season. So with that said, Gino Auriemma should be proud of the way that, and he did. He stated that he is very proud, and he's I think as long as he's been around, Ryan, he's actually just as shocked as you and I and the fan base that, the different ways these Husky women can hang in there. So proud of them. So proud of the way they can hang in there. And again, the big example goes for the other night against UCF, arguably the top defensive basketball team in the country, other than UConn, let's say. But so with the point I'm getting at, and don't say, I don't want to say that UConn hasn't been tested this season, because they have, especially with the injuries and what they've gone through. With that said, they did play South Carolina, in the tournament earlier in the Bahamas, when they lost to them. But other than that game, Ryan, I'm just curious, because what I'm getting at, Paige Beckers is not your same average player as we saw the old Paige Beckers when she made her bang into this NCAA league, right? When she made her presence felt, scoring 28, 30 points a game. But that's okay, Gino says. And I agree with that, because there's a lot more to do on the court than just score points, right? So, and especially, do you see that mid-range jumper that Paige shoots? Oh my God. With the blocks they make for her, and then she gets her mid-range jumper right in the center of the court, right there at the free throw line. I mean, she just can't miss.
It's a
Even if she
beautiful thing to
tries to miss,
watch. Yeah.
she's not going to miss. I love to see them floaters that she shoots. But anyhow, so Aaliyah Boston, what if Aaliyah Boston goes off on UConn? How does that defense respond then on this UConn Huskies team? How about facing a Haley Jones from Stanford? How about facing the red hot Lexi Hall from Stanford? So you see, my point is, yes, the defense has done amazing so far, but had they played a team, because I even looked at the box score for UCF. What I'm trying to tell you, Ryan, is this a whole different kind of situation we're looking at? Mind you, now all it takes is one game now from here on out. Is this a different kind of situation Gino's facing? And you don't know until the game is pretty much over in the fourth quarter. What if that one player, either one of the names I named or an unexpected player, comes off the bench and for the opposing team goes off 28, 30, 35 points in one game? It's something that Gino hasn't seen a whole lot of this season.
Yeah, and you're right. But I think that the mindset that Gino and this UConn team goes into, whether they're playing South Carolina, which has been the number one team all season, or whether they're playing Butler, who finished last in the Big East Conference, I think the mindset going into the game is the same. And the mindset is to just play them tough and physical like they've done all season long. It doesn't matter if you're playing Aaliyah Boston, who's averaged a double in every single game, or you're playing a team in your conference that's only won one game all season. So I think UConn just has to keep the same mindset. Doesn't matter who you're playing. That we're in March Madness now, like you said, it's sudden death. If you lose, you're going home. Which might not be it's not a very long ride for UConn because they're playing in Bridgeport. But I just think it's going to be the same mindset, and I think Gino knows that. He's been here long enough. But I think it's just the defense for UConn, and I think Indiana, they're a pretty good team. They have a lot of experience, like we said, but as long as they play them tough and physical, and the full court press that UConn put on, we saw both teams from UCF and UConn. But the way UConn runs their full court press, it creates turnovers, and they get easy buckets off of that, and that gets their offense going as well. So I think that's just another thing that UConn can do that some teams can't.
And how about you mentioned, shout out to whose birthday was it yesterday? Gino's birthday.
Yeah, Gino's 68th birthday was yesterday. So happy late
60
birthday
or
to the
68?
GOAT. Yeah, 68.
68 years old, I'll tell you, man. So happy birthday to Gino. Hey, I mean, if they do win it all, this could be the game that we're looking back on, UCF, or maybe this one against Indiana, or maybe if they make it to the Elite Eight, maybe it's going to be that game. It's so many, or maybe it's all the games we're going to look back on. I mean, who knows, right? But yeah, now don't take nothing away from head coach Terry Moore for Indiana. Um, but I tell you what, to me, the way I'm viewing this game, if you can relate, Ryan, I don't know if you saw the roster for or read into the Indiana's roster. I mean, a lot of these names we're familiar with because they've been there so long already. Um, there are a lot of returning seniors on this basketball team. And the way I'm looking at it, again, not to take anything away from the head coach for Indiana, but I'm looking at it as experience. Now, versus, I'm looking at I mean, there's like, I think Ali Patberg, in her seventh year, or I've read one of the players in their seventh year, Ryan. So can you argue maybe the experience because again, you have a lot of freshmen, good freshmen for UConn, very good freshmen, Easy Fudd. That's one of the best freshmen in the whole country. But again, you have all this senior experience coming in for Indiana, and I think it's versus just one on UConn, and that would be Gino. Look at that experience. Look at that experience. Can he draw up the magic to stop this very good Indiana team that has that experience? Because I always hit hard on that, Ron, experience, and Indiana has it. I mean, you can't, what more can you ask for? You have fifth year players returning, sixth year, seventh year seniors on Indiana. I mean, you can't stay much longer than 7 years.
Yeah, well, I think, talking about UConn's roster, besides AZ, I think this is the same lineup that we saw in March Madness last year, that its team made it to
Okay.
the Final Four
All
with
right.
Nelson Adota, Aaliyah Edwards, Kristen Williams, or Aaliyah Edwards, not a senior, of course, but Olivia Nelson Adota, Kristen Williams, and Avina Westbrook being all seniors.
Okay.
Aaliyah Edwards also in that lineup, and of course, Paige Beckers, obviously. So, AZ and Ducharme, of course, being freshmen, but they're pretty good freshmen, and they've stepped up. We've seen them be in the starting lineup for multiple games this season and have great scoring games, scoring 20 points. So they're definitely capable of doing that. But it's just that I think maybe the pressure of being in March Madness. And maybe being in Bridgeport, being in front of some of your home fans might be a little pressure, and I'm not sure if that's why they kind of came out to a slow start at home, but I think it definitely helped them in the end, because that atmosphere for UConn on Monday night was just unreal. Sold out arena. The student section was so pumped up all night. Everybody in the arena was hyped up for that game. So I think that even gives them a little bit of an advantage, not being too far away from home in Bridgeport. I know a lot of people have different opinions on that matchup, that the committee paired UConn and Bridgeport, but we'll see it. I think it's going to be a really, really tough, another physical game from UConn and Indiana.
Yeah, and again, let's just not forget and praise to the max. Praise. I mean, it's the Huskies. They've won more national championships than any other program in the sport. UConn has 11 women's basketball national titles to its name. The most recent championship run was a four-peat, it says, from 2013 to 16. I think that's when I was talking about the big winning streak that I'll never forget. And then UConn
Yeah.
has made 28, Ryan, 28 consecutive Sweet 16s. And of course, the Huskies fell to Arizona in the Final Four last year. With that said, yeah, I mean, no matter what happens this season, you can't take away what I just read to you, right? So again, historic program, historic times that we're getting ready to witness. With that said, I wanted to quickly, Ryan, in case you didn't get time to watch it yet, shout out to Nikki Collin. I've really felt terrible for her and that ball club as they fell. What was that? An upset. Baylor lost. It looked like Baylor. I mean, look at that, right? Another example. It looked like Baylor, and even someone that watches our podcast had Baylor and UConn in the final, and it just did not happen, unfortunately, for Baylor. They were favored, and they looked like a number one the whole season, Ryan, and they went in as a number two eventually, but then fell short in the second round.
Yeah, in the second round, and I believe they got upset by South Dakota 61-47. So a lot of upsets. We saw Creighton do it against Iowa the same day or on Sunday
Yeah.
evening. So yeah, that's why we said that the all tournament long, anything can happen in March. And we've definitely seen that in both the men's and women's tournaments this year. So it's a crazy time. But yeah, I really do feel bad for Baylor as well. I know how much me and you love to watch Nikki Collins in the WNBA, and she's done such a great job taking over this Baylor program. And a lot of people were debating they should have been a number one seed in this tournament, but they got the number two seed. And I think that, they would have had to play South Carolina, I think, if they made it to the Final Four, I believe. Just a little disappointed we're not able to see that matchup, but I'm sure Baylor will be back for many years to come with Nikki Collins.
Oh, yes. Yeah, you're not kidding when you say that. 100%. And I tell you that's what I wanted to just congratulate on, because Nikki Collins, again, watch the interview, the post game press conference if you get time. Really emotional. It's more than sports. We know that, Ryan. We go over that a lot. And but I just want to shout out Nikki Collins. Congratulations to her, even though they did not achieve the ultimate goal, the ultimate prize. Nikki Collins, speaking specifically to Baylor fans here, if any of them tune into this, you're not getting a pushover head coach, and Ryan can tell you the same thing in Nikki Collins. I tell you, because Nikki Collins discussed in that post game press conference about change. It's hard for anybody for change in life, and I think it speaks volumes how Nikki went in there and filled in such big shoes as Kim Mulkey left Baylor, and Mulkey, again, one of the greats in women's basketball coaching. So Ryan, yeah, I mean, again, you tell me what you think, or you might think differently, but I'm not too sure. Of course, Gino, you have Gino. I understand that, but I'm not too sure if if I would want any other coach, let's just say stepping down from the WNBA into such a big role, and Baylor being one of the top basketball programs in the history of the sport. Nikki Collins, really a class act. She is a great person, and she really stepped up and filled some big shoes when Kim Mulkey left. Nikki Collins, Ryan, I don't think a Baylor could have asked for a better replacement.
Yeah, and I'd say that's a pretty hard coaching spot to just jump into, and they had
Mm-hmm.
a really really good year in the Big 12. Baylor did, but unfortunately, it came to a quick end in March Madness. But like I said, I'm sure they'll be back. Nikki Collins will have those girls ready for next season and many years to come. So I'm sure when we're in for a treat in the Baylor program and watching them just blossom, we'll say, in March Madness for years to come.
Okay, now, according to Ryan, your favorite part of the show, and that's comments time. And there was a lot of them. We won't have time to go over every one of them. This is actually this is going to get interesting here. Um, this is because obviously the reason I'm saying that, you were the one to record the last episode without me. So specifically, they're talking to you on this, Ryan. And let's go over this first one here. By Pert Chicanopy. Ryan, I think Indiana is going to make it look easy. I've got North Carolina State, Texas, Michigan, and South Carolina. I would like to believe in UConn because their defense has looked good, but they've been lacking a certain cohesion for too long. They seem unable to be integrated into a common identity as long as though the seniors and the underclassmen have attitudes on how things should be done by praising Page to no end. Gino has effectively nurtured his seniors of locker room authority, so now he must ride or die with Page and her followers. Okay. Rebecca gave him one championship. Sue and Diana combined for 3. Maya gave him 3 more. Stewie gave him 4. Gino wins titles by recruiting the best player and letting that player take over the team. He was hoping Paige would do this. He is killing any chemistry this team forged in her absence by handing it back over to her before she is clearly 100%. It will cost them getting past Indiana and North Carolina State unless Eve and Kristen decide to take over on their own. Kristen seems willing, but Eve has not looked sharp. This group is a hot mess.
Yeah, well, that's quite a
Wow.
bold statement, but I'll
Whoa.
start. I'll try to start from the top here. I don't think Indiana is going to make it easy. I don't think any team that has to play UConn is going to make it easy.
No, I
Uh,
definitely agree with that. Yeah,
I
I
don't
agree
think.
with you on that.
Yeah, I don't think UConn's going to easily beat any team,
Close
or I don't
game.
think any team
Yeah.
they play is going to make it easy. And speaking on Paige, I don't think it's her team. I don't think it's anybody's team. It's obviously Gino's team. He's the head coach. But speaking on the players, I don't think anybody's necessarily the leader on this team. They have three seniors or four seniors, but Dorca's coming back. I don't think really Paige is the leader of this team, and everybody else follows in her footsteps. But I think there definitely is a lot of chemistry on this team. There might not have been earlier in the season with all the injuries and moving players in and out of different lineups, but this past 2-3 weeks throughout the Big East tournament and then coming into March Madness, they've been on this really long win streak of probably 10 games now. And we've really seen the chemistry, and they've established one starting lineup with Vina Westbrook coming off the bench. She does great. Ducharme files in. Dorka as well. She's been playing great off the bench. So I really think they are playing together as a team. And it's going to be really tough for any team to beat them.
Jamie Centrella came through again. We appreciate you, Jamie. She goes, I knew UCF was no joke, but the officiating was horrid. Well, you went over that, Ryan. You got a chance to watch that game. UCF 24, UConn 21. I could make an argument Paige Beckers shouldn't start. Certainly disjointed since she has. Oh, wow. All right, Ryan. Well, Gino said in his presser he has low expectations of her coming off the injury surgery she had. I hope mentally everyone can have a come to Jesus moment. I think they went 2-12 on layups. Insanity. I was boosting Redemption UConn all the way, but honestly, Stanford looks like the team to beat. We'll have to wait and bear witness to the outcome of this tournament. 4 more games till the end. Well, that before you comment on that one, Ryan, let's just say no disrespect to Stanford, but hey, let's hope they lose coming up this weekend, because guess what? That will put Maryland on the map, because I know Stanford is the favorite now. Just think what it would do to the whole bracket, or to everyone's thoughts and feelings, if the Terps would all of a sudden come out on top.
Yeah, that would be something. That's definitely going to be a good
Then
one
we
to
would
watch
be
on
having
Friday
just as
night.
much Maryland conversation as we would be UConn all season.
Yeah. Yeah, well, Maryland had such that good run last year in the tournament, and then they got upset by Texas. So trying to make another run this year, but yeah, I think that there's been a lot of conversation surrounding Paige coming off her injury. We weren't sure what she was going to look like, and she's just trying to ease her way back in. And I was kind of surprised that the first round of this tournament versus Mercer, that she did start, and she played around 25 minutes, and I think last game she almost got up to 30 minutes. So I agree with that she's been disjointed. But it seems like Gino doesn't really mind. I think he kind of expects her to be able to fix her own problems, I guess I'll say, and kind of just get back into her own rhythm. But I definitely think she doesn't need to start, but it's a decision that Gino made to have her out there, and I think it's her leadership on the court, with her calling the plays and being able to tell everybody where they're supposed to be. But yeah, I mean, I think it might be the downfall of this team, maybe, that Paige is in the starting lineup. But we'll just have to see it. It's going to be some really tough games coming up.
Shout out very quickly. Also, Nita came through and he told you good content. 2 words, good content, Ryan.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you to everybody on the support of that video. Really sad that you couldn't be there on with me, but I appreciate all the support from everybody on that video.
Yeah, and then Roy Hobbs, shout out to Roy Hobbs, shouted out to you, and he said, good rap, dude. And then let's just go over one more, Ryan, and then we'll get out of here. Let's see. YTub Save. When was the last time UConn had a decent post player? He says, not this year, not last year, or the year before. It is their Achilles heel. The current ones miss easy layups, get pushed around, bobble the ball, and commit silly fouls. They pale in comparison to Dawson or Stewart. Add to that Westbrook as a no-show, and Becker's still not back to her former self, and a team often out of sync. And it will be another year with UConn exiting the tournament before the end. UConn is no longer exceptional. It was bound to happen. There are more high-level programs than ever, more high-level talent going to other teams. And Gino, he looks tired, understandably so. Yeah, it's weird, Ryan, because again, when it seemed like that I was talking from no man's land, the people that we had heard from when this tournament started, I don't think that they're really coming through now. I didn't want to preach negative on this team, but again, hey, there you had to face it. There were some high-powered teams going into this tournament, and what UConn went through early in the season, I just wasn't sure. Again, they're still in it, but for the time being, I just wasn't sure if they could make it to that finish line. And now it's starting to look like a lot of people are jumping on my side of the court saying, oh, yeah, they're finished.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think for me, I think UConn, for this Indiana game, it's obviously big, but I think it's going to be big for them if they can come out and have a really strong offensive performance. Like we said, knock down the easy, the wide open layups that they get, the wide open shots, have a game that was around 50% from field goal range, like we've seen many games this season. Have a good 3-point shooting game, like we know they're capable of doing, and just continue to play good, solid defense. And I think that will really boost the confidence of everybody. But I really do think that the UConn players are playing together. I think they are very jointed. I don't think they're out of rhythm. I just think that they need to get those shots to fall, and they obviously have the talent to do it. It's just seeing it go through the net.
That's it, Ryan. Grace Berger was the hero against Princeton in that 1-point win in the second round. Who will be the hero in the Sweet 16, Ryan? It's the Indiana Hoosiers, Connecticut Huskies in the NCAA tournament Saturday, March 26th. Ryan, I will see you Saturday evening for the big recap. Hopefully another UConn win. It's Phil and Rye for Austin and Anita on Listen Up.